fellow cyborgs, and welcome to a very impromptu, chilled out video. It's Sunday right now at about 4:30 my time. Sunday, the final day of the Author-thon Readathon. You didn't know that, but yeah, I decided to participate in the Author-thon really last minute. I put a TBR post up, a general update, status update on Goodreads, and maybe 5 of you saw it. I tried my best. So let me start out by sharing with you my Author-thon TBR, and then we can get into the wrap up of all of the things that I read in the last 2 weeks. Okie doke? Okay. So the Author-thon had 6 challenges. The first challenge was to read a book by one of your favorite authors. I chose A Medicine for Melancholy by Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury is one of my favorite authors and has been since I read the short story All Summer in a Day, which is in this collection in 8th grade. Challenge 2 was to read a new to you author. I chose Karen Blixen, aka Isaac Denison, and I chose this collection of short stories called Anecdotes of Destiny. This contains Babette's Feast, which I heard Marie Berg talk about, so I had to pick this up when I found it in a used bookstore, and I decided to pick it up for the readathon. Challenge number 3 was to give an author a second chance, and I decided that author would be Peter Dickinson. This is Emma Tupper's diary, which I requested for review from Small Beer Press. Peter Dickinson wrote, along with Robin McKinley, who is his wife, Water, which was a collection of short stories about water elementals, water creatures, and stuff like that. And it was so boring, and I really despised that collection of short stories. And when I requested Emma Tupper's diary, it was only after it arrived to me that I realized it was by Peter Dickinson. So I decided that this would be a perfect time to read this, as I need to get to it soon, and it's short, so that would be perfect for the readathon. Challenge number 4 was to read a debut author whose work was published in 2015 and 2016, and I cheated for this because I don't buy new books, I don't buy hardcovers, I don't keep up with brand new picks. I like reading things that have kind of blown over, or things that people haven't been talking about for a while. I had nothing for this challenge, so I decided to just pick up a book, the first book from an author. I chose How the Blessed Live by Susanna M. Smith. You may have heard about this from Mercedes. It's now one of her new favorite books, and I ordered a copy online. It was one of the last copies I could get my hands on, and so I decided to read this over the readathon. Challenge number 5 was to read a book by multiple authors, and I decided to just finally get to volume 5 of Saga. This is written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples. And challenge 6 is a diversity challenge, so read a book by an author who doesn't live in the same country, the same continent, you know, as different from yourself as you can get is good. So I decided to pick up the Book of Imaginary Beings by Jorge Luis Borges. He's a Spanish writer living in Spain. I am a white woman living in Canada, so we're quite different. And I picked this up in Scotland when I was there in July rather, and I haven't got to it yet, so it was about time that I tried this. So that was the TBR for the Author-thon. Now you are completely up to date on all of the challenges I set myself in the last 2 weeks of readathons. Let's now go through my Genrethon wrap up. First thing I finished, which I finished on Sunday afternoon, I think, so the first day of the readathon. This is The Playboy Chic's Virgin Stable Girl by Sharon Kendrick, and this was a pile of horse poo. I gave this 1 star. It's questionably racist. It takes place in a made-up, I'm pretty sure, I'm not at all well versed in Middle Eastern geography, but I'm pretty sure this is a made-up island in the Middle East. So it's an Arabic setting, Arabic characters, but the references to their culture was so surface level, and it was to the point of just like occasionally mentioning traditional garb, but then also putting metaphors of the desert in when the Playboy Chic is trying to describe this virgin stable girl, and all he was obsessed with was polo and fast cars, and it was just, yeah, made me uncomfortable. Don't read this. Read the ridiculous, awesome review of this from Smart Bitches Trashy Books. That was linked down below in my Genrethon TBR video. I will link that video down below. You don't need to read this book. All the good bits are talked about in that review. So yeah, I gave this 1 star. It was fun to read, like it was super fast. It was a great way to start off the Genrethon, but I'm not going to be picking up any more Harlequin Presents. I'm not going to be reading any more in this like 8-book series. It's not going to be happening, no, but I'm glad I read this. Also on the first day Sunday, I got to Peter and Alice by John Logan, and I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't cry like people said that I was going to. Maybe, you know, maybe I just am truly a cyborg and have a metallic heart. I'm going to be talking about my feelings of this book in a future review video, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But this made me want to read so many plays, so many plays. It's practically the only thing I want for my birthday in July, and I'm just so pleased that I finally got to this. It was so worth it. The next book I finished during that week was A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. I started this before the Genrethon, but as Genrethon rules suggest, it's the books that you finish during the week are the ones that count, so I finished this. I buddy read this with Michaela Rochilla from a channel of the same name and Hillary over at Your Robot Friend, and I had a lot of fun chatting with them over Voxer and talking about practically just like everything we loved about this, because I give this 5 stars. This was flippin' fantastic. I'm going to be talking about this in another review video coming up in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But I'll just say real quick that at first I didn't think I was going to like Ruth's narrative, but then as the book progressed, I came to love both sides of the narrative equally for different reasons, and this was just so well done. I'm so pleased that book 2 brought this book to me, and that I actually got to it this year, and that Santa gave it to me for Christmas, and it was just a whole bundle of fun. So you'll be hearing more about this in a future video. And then, as promised, I got to The Invention of Everything Else by Samantha Hunt over the week of Genrethon. Unfortunately, I did not like this. It was okay. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I'm going to be doing a future review video on this as well, as was promised to you, but let's just say that I didn't agree with her writing style. I thought that there was really no plot, the characters were kind of shallow, and the imagery, the emphasis and the details that Samantha Hunt decided to focus on in her writing was just gross things and sad things, and I was just not happy about that. So yeah, unfortunately, 2 out of 5 stars, but you'll be hearing more of my thoughts later. And then finally, the last thing I read during the Genrethon week was a sneaky sneak thing I didn't plan on reading, but it was the weekend and I was just decided to pick something up, and that was Catlantis, written by Anna Starobinets, translated from Russian by Jane Bugeva, and the original illustrations are by Andrzej Klimowski. Did my best. This was kindly sent to me by Victoria over at A Hermit's Progress because cat puns, and she said I needed it in my life, which was very true. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really fast read. I really enjoy it. Questionably cat racist, because the ginger cats are like the purebred ginger cats are the prided breed of cats in this world, and the black cats are almost inherently evil and have black magic, and so that's really questionable. But I found that most of the time, all of the like cats in this cat society, besides our main character Baguette, were just obstinate, just stubborn and cruel, and you know, so it wasn't only the fact that the black cats were jerks. It was kind of like all of the cats in Power were jerks. Victoria and I kind of need to hash this out together, because we're still not sure how we feel about it. How is this racist? Like, was it meant to be racist? How do we reconcile the fact that there are these racist overtones in here, but that we still enjoyed the reading experience? Would we read this to kids? I don't know. But it was a fun couple hours, as problematic as it is. And it even worked things like history in it, like witch trials in the Middle Ages, so that was an unexpected bonus. So yeah, Catlantis. It was a fun romp, questionably problematic, but there you go. I'm glad that I got to this, and I'm so glad that Victoria decided I needed in my life, because she was very right. I very much did. So these are all of the books I got to during the Genrethon week. So that was 4 different genres, romance, play, children's, and literary fiction, 5 different books. I'm very, very pleased with that. I really loved how the Genrethon was a laid-back sort of readathon. I wasn't reading every moment of the day and feeling guilty that I wasn't reading every moment of the day, so it was an enjoyable week, and I'm so happy to have read these. A couple of flops, but a couple of really lovely things in here, so that was wonderful. Okay, so now let's go through the things that I finished for Author-thon. I'm proud to say that I finished everything on that TBR list. All 6 of those books. They were small, I know, but I've not been reading a lot. I've not been feeling confident in being able to finish books recently. March was a really weird reading month for me, so it was nice that April has been oh so successful in actually finishing things and feeling like I'm making progress on my super huge TBR bookshelf. So let's go in ascending order from the least number of stars that the book received to the highest number of stars the book received, because I have a huge gamut of things in these 6 books that I read this week. So the book that received 1 star was Emma Tupper's Diary by Peter Dickinson, unfortunately. So I'm going to be talking about this in more detail in a future video, so you'll get my full thoughts there. But I'll just say that it's the writing style I don't fancy. Anything that happened in here, as exciting as it ought to be, was made dull and boring by the emphasis on detailing the minutiae of things, the mechanics of things. There was way too much time spent in here talking about how a Victorian submarine runs. I don't give a care. And especially in a book that's supposed to be about an exciting Scottish holiday vacation, and I really love Scotland. I was just hoping to learn more about the culture and the landscape, but instead I learnt about Victorian submarines. No, not what I was wanting, not at all. And then I have to say that I gave 2 stars to The Book of Imaginary Beings by Jorge Luis Borges. This is not what I was expecting. This is, in essence, a dry encyclopedia of beings that have been imagined by humans, whether in folklore, in short stories, or any stuff like that. In the preface it says that it's supposed to be read, you're supposed to dip in and out of it, read a section here or there, but I don't think that I need to be told how to read a book to enjoy it, so I read this from cover to cover. I skimmed a lot though, I'm going to admit, but there is so much text in here that are direct quotes. I can see the amount of work that Borges put into this, into compiling this, but I don't understand how he can say he has written it, because it seems like he just transcribed definitions and copy and pasted primary sources into this, and that was this. So this should have been organized better. Alphabetically just did not suit this book at all. It should have been grouped regionally, so all Asian imaginary beings, all North American imaginary beings. It could have been grouped by the origins, so how long these beings have been around in the human imagination. Anything besides alphabetically. And then to top it off, mermaids were not included. Are you kidding me? Really? Okay, well, 2 stars you have earned. 4 stars was given to Anecdotes of Destiny by Isaac Dennison, aka Karen Blixen, or rather it's Karen Blixen aka Isaac Dennison. Anyway, so in here are 5 stories of varying length from 15 pages to, let's see, 80 pages. I found that the longer length stories in here were my favorites. The first and last stories were the ones that fell short for me, but the middle 3 were the ones that I really took to heart, those being Babette's Feast, The Tempests, and The Immortal Story. So in here you've got a story about a French refugee who comes to live in a very religiously strict Protestant, or not Protestant, I don't know, family in Norway, and then she wins the lottery and they have to come to terms with the fact that they're going to lose this housemaid and companion that they've had for 15 years. The Tempests is about a theatrical company trying to produce William Shakespeare's The Tempest, and that being derailed by a actual sea tempest. And then The Immortal Story is about an old dying man who's lost the vigor of life, and here's this story that's told by sailors all around the world, and he's decided that he's going to make this story come true for one sailor. These all have nice little twists. I really liked the writing style and the atmosphere. They're quieter stories, but they do have twists at the end, which I was really pleased with. I'm so excited to read more by Isaac Dennison. I think I'll be reading out of Africa sometime soon probably, and I also have a copy of Winter's Tales by her, which hopefully I'll be picking up when winter comes along. So I'm so pleased that Marie Berg just pushed me one step forward to picking up stuff by Karen Blixen. I really enjoyed it, and this was a lovely addition to the readathon. Another 4-star read was A Medicine for Melancholy by Ray Bradbury. This is a collection of short stories. They're quite short stories, which I liked. I think he did a really great job with the length of these stories. In here are so many fun things. There's a story about a mermaid, there's a couple stories about going to Mars, there's this story about 6 gentlemen not having enough money to buy a white summer suit. These group of 6 men all have the same body type and they go in to buy one suit and have to share it among each other on this crazy night. My favorites in here was The End of the Beginning, which had some of the most beautiful passages. It's about like the parents of one of the first astronauts to go in a rocket ship and what they're feeling on the night that their son's going to blast into space. Then there's The Town Where No One Got Off, which was kind of creepy and about a couple of men who fantasized about killing people in their minds. Then we've got All Summer in a Day, which was the short story that I read by Ray Bradbury when I was 13, and it really made me think, and rereading that, I remembered so much about it, and it was still a really heartbreaking story, but I still really loved reading it. And then finally, The Shoreline at Sunset was a story about a mermaid, and that one was really interesting, and I was really pleased to see a mermaid story in a Ray Bradbury short story collection. Not in the Book of Imaginary Beings, no, but Ray Bradbury gave me a mermaid story. So that was great. So this was just so enjoyable. There's such a nostalgia to his writing, and I am definitely going to make it one of my life goals to read every single thing that Ray Bradbury has written. So I'm just going to keep plugging away because Bradbury is freaking awesome. I really love his writing. The first 5-star read that I'm going to be talking about is Saga Volume 5 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I was so worried that I wasn't going to like this, but this volume did not disappoint. It's a bit chaotic in its plot lines, but I could follow it completely, and I fell in love with this series because it's been quite a while since I read Volume 4, and Volume 4 wasn't my favorite, but this one captured the crazy worlds, the adventures, and characters that I really liked. I'm so excited to continue on with this series, and this was a really wonderful way for me to start off the Author-thon as I read this on the first day of the Author-thon. If you haven't picked up Saga yet, please do try it. I know it's so hyped up now, but this is my favorite. I was just double checking my shelves, but yes, this is my favorite ongoing comic book series. And finally, my favorite book of the Author-thon and my favorite book of the month so far is How the Blessed Live by Susanna M. Smith. This is really weird. It took me about 50 pages to get into, but once I passed that 50-page mark, I was just addicted to this. I was completely hooked. It's just really interesting. It's such a small story, and it's beautifully written, but it didn't wow me at the beginning. At the beginning there's this part where Lucy has traveled to Vancouver and her brother and father don't know where she is. She's just escaped from her family home. Escape's a strong word. She's left her family home. She's auditioning for this kind of circus show almost, and she's a singer, and so she sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow as her audition song, and I just kind of cringed. I was just like, oh, this is just really cliched. Not soon after that cringy moment, it just really picked up pace. One of the things I really loved was Lucy's list making. She makes lists, but it's almost like poetry. For instance, here's one called Fantastic Creatures Continued. Siren, partly human female creature that lures mariners to destruction by her irresistible singing. Sylph, an elemental spirit of the air, a slender, graceful woman or girl. Sibyl, a woman who lives in or on caves and utters advice and prophecy in ambiguous wording under the often frenzied inspiration of the gods. Sibyl, 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 sibilant, sibylline, sibling. It's just so loaded. There's so, like, everything matters in this, and you've got double meanings up the wazoo. I must say that this is not for the faint of heart. If you are not good with reading sex scenes, if you're not good with reading about some gore, not violence per se, but some gore, then you're probably going to want to stay away from this, because that's, you know, for a small book, that's in there a couple times. That didn't bother me that much. This is a really interesting look at family and siblings, specifically twins, about grief, the loss of a spouse, children who are growing up on a small island rather than in a big city. There's a lot about Canada in here, which I really liked. There's so much in here about art and identity. It's just really good. I need to reread it again and just have my pen ready to underline so much, because I just ate this up. It was just so good and addictive that I need to go through it more slowly. I'm questioning whether or not this is a new favorite book. I'm not sure, which probably means it's not, but I do definitely intend to reread this, and hopefully I can stop myself from rereading it soon. I had quite a bad book hangover after finishing this. After finishing this, I picked up The Anecdotes of Destiny, and so often when I was reading some of those short stories, this was just in the back of my mind. It just stuck around, and it was so subtle and quiet, but it made such an impression, and I'm so glad let my self-control slip and I purchased this weeks after Mercedes talked about it, because it was really awesome, and I'm really, really glad that I picked it up. And I apologize, because if you're wanting a copy of it now, I think almost everyone's scooped them up on the normal website, so sorry. If you ever get a chance and you see it somewhere in a used bookshop, to pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. So this is what I managed to finish in the Authorathon. So I'm quite pleased that I got through everything with a few hours to spare as well. That was really nice. So these are all of the books that I've read in the last 2 weeks. I'm pretty dang impressed with myself. Those readathons were very, very successful and lots of fun. I didn't think I was a readathon person, but with these laid back ones, and somehow I found the time, and it just worked out really great. Of the books that I wasn't able to talk with you about in detail, because they're going to be talked about in the future, I'm sorry. Please keep your eyes peeled. I promise I will talk about them in the future. And for the books that I did get to talk about, I hope that your interest was piqued or your curiosity was quenched, and that you enjoyed this wrap-up. So there you have it, my fellow cyborgs. I hope that this gets out fairly soon and you get to have your curiosity assuaged about how the Genrethon went through. I'm sorry I didn't give you a TBR video about the Author-thon before today so that you could eagerly await my progress, but you know, sometimes life just gets in the way of having things prepared ahead of time, and I know you will forgive me and are pleased to see the TBR now, so I won't worry about it. Thank you for watching. Please let me know in the comments down below if you participated in any of these readathons or in the Dewey's 24 Hour. I know that just passed by. Or if you didn't, tell me why you didn't. Or tell me what you think about readathons in general. Are they for you? Or do they put too much pressure on? Or are they just the right amount of motivation for you that you need? Until next time, I hope that you read a 5-star book and continue to be lovely.